Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and today I am back with another Muggles Wizarding adventure. Of course, I pulled out my Echo Park Witches and Wizard collection, and I pulled out this single page layout. I'm actually going to document a single page layout, but I will be back very shortly with the other side of the layout. This particular layout is going to document Eli with his chocolate frog. It was definitely one of those things that we had to have when we visited Universal. This thing is a solid piece of chocolate and it is huge. The sketch that I'm following calls for a 4x4 photo and then two smaller photos. I decided to have the 4x4 photo be the focal photo of Eli holding the chocolate frog, and then the other two smaller photos are him looking at the packaging and opening the chocolate frog out of the packaging. I looked through the 6x6 paper pad and I was able to pull out this star paper. I couldn't find another 6x6 that I liked, and I was really looking for a smaller print. So I decided to look through some of the papers that I have, and I had this like brick paper that has a swirl design on it. So I decided to add that as my second paper. And then for the final piece, I did add a 4x4 card that says "Magic is all around you." I did decide to mat the 2x2 photos on the background piece of paper. I just made sure that it was in the center of the layout, and I knew that I was going to be covering that up with the 4x4 squares. I did decide to ink all of the edges since there are some pretty predominant colors in each one of the papers, and I felt like inking the edges would bring them all together. I pulled out my T-square ruler, and it is linked below. This thing is one of my favorite tools, and I also feel like it's probably the most inexpensive tool that I own, but I couldn't do any of my layouts with them. It helps me make sure that everything is straight. And of course, even with the T-square ruler, I didn't get all of the pieces straight, so I did have to pull up the star paper as well as the photo to make sure that they were down straight. I did add some washi tape to the back of the layout just to make sure that that hole doesn't become an issue when I'm trying to put it in and out of the album. The 4x4 card was a little bit longer, so I did pull out my T-square ruler and X-Acto knife just to trim it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to also ink up the edges of the white cardstock around the photos and add those right above that 4x4 card. I did decide to put one of them up on fun foam just to give it a little bit of dimension between the two photos. The upper left-hand side of the sketch calls for some banners, so I was able to find two banners from the ephemera packs, and then I just found some other paper that I thought would work to be able to cut into banners. I wanted a variety of sizes as well as colors, and I was just really looking through my scraps trying to find anything that would work. I really like this cream color paper. It almost looks like it's old paper or paper that you would find like in a scroll. So really, really old paper. It's a two-tone paper. It's lighter at the top and then it gets darker as it goes down. And so I used that as the base and then just started to build up that cluster with the different patterns. So I have a couple of stripes as well as some stars. And I did use my T-square ruler and X-Acto knife to trim them up and make sure that they are all straight. Because there was some adhesive on part of it, I did struggle with it a little bit. And I end up covering this up completely, so I didn't have to really have too much concern about it. I looked through a couple of different pieces and finally settled on this Magic and Adventure sticker, and it also has like a squirrel look to it. Over on the far right-hand side of the layout is where I'm going to start to build up that cluster with the photos. I'm really just adding any stickers that could possibly work. One of the things that I'm struggling with most in regards to these layouts, because I started this series this time last year and I haven't even gotten through half of the photos. The Echo Park Witches and Wizards collection is very generic to Harry Potter, and the photos that I am documenting are very specific to Universal. So there's not a lot of chocolate frog items in the stickers and embellishment pieces. So I'm really just trying to look through and find kind of anything that would maybe go with it. So I pulled out a spell book as well as some potions and a broom, even though it really doesn't have anything to do with the frogs, but it kind of goes with Harry Potter. I also pulled out a globe, and I'm just kind of looking through and finding some colors that would go well with my photos as well as those background pieces. That little circle that I ended up adding over on the right says sent by Owl, and I thought that was really cute. But then I found a frog, and I decided to move that to the upper left-hand side. I then start to look through my color boxes, and I pulled out my black ones as well as my wood veneer and added some black enamel dots and wood veneer stars to each one of the clusters. I decided that I wanted to add a little bit of stitching, so the swirl that is in the upper right-hand corner, I just followed that line and created some stitching holes, and then I'm going to stitch it with some black thread. So it's not something that is predominant, and if you don't look real close you can't see it, but I just felt like it added a little bit of extra texture to that cluster and that square up in the upper right-hand corner. All of my stitching tools are linked below in my Amazon storefront. I really love this little magnetic box. It holds my needles as well as my threaders because I cannot thread a needle without them. And then I also use a 6-strand embroidery floss, and I split it in 3, and that's just a personal preference. So I did slow the video down here so that you can see the details of that stitching on that 4x4 square. My title is going to be Anything Off the Trolley. So I decided to add the word trolley with these black thickers, and then I'm going to use the yellow tile stickers from Simple Stories, and I am going to put them up on foam adhesive from scrapbook.com. At first I had anything from the trolley, but then I looked it up and the term isn't actually anything from the trolley, it's anything off the trolley. So I did have to switch around that word. I took some of the pieces off and saved them so that I could use them in the correct phrase. If you're not a Harry Potter fan, when the kids are on the train going to Hogwarts, there is a person that comes around, and on the trolley is all kinds of different sweets. And the chocolate frog is introduced in the first book when they are on the train going to Hogwarts for the very first time. Harry buys some chocolate frogs and shares them with Ron. So I thought that was an appropriate title for this particular layout. So I do have a playlist with all of my layouts that I've completed so far. I would really like to finish up this album since this trip was from Eli's 11th birthday and we are coming up on his 14th birthday. So it's been a couple years and I would like to get all of it completed and documented. So 1, I don't have to worry about it anymore, and 2, we can actually have all of the layouts documented and we can look through the album. After I was finished with the layout and I was actually packing everything up, I was able to find this 2x2 square that has a chocolate frog on it. So I decided to add that right above the photos. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I did do my journaling offline, and it says, Eli simply had to have a chocolate frog. This delightful treat was a solid chunk of chocolate and came complete with a wizard card. And he did get Dumbledore as his wizard card. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.